Good day, everyone. My name is Martin, and today we'll talk about the Roman Empire, specifically on the Julio-Claudian emperors, the Flavian emperors, and the Antonine Caesars. At its height, the Roman Empire spanned the entire Mediterranean and included more than 60 million inhabitants. The empire was one of the most famous and influential states in all of world history, and the story of its spectacular rise and disastrous fall has exerted an irresistible fascination for the last 2,000 years. This course begins with the first emperor, Augustus, who emerged as the ultimate winner of the vicious cycle of civil wars that caused the destruction of the Roman Republic. We will discover how he created the new institution of the Roman Principate, establishing the model that would be emulated by all subsequent emperors. And we're going to trace the dramatic history of the empire under a succession of good leaders and bad, from the depravity of mad Caligula to the stoic philosophical musings of Marcus Aurelius. The rise of the Republic. Octavian's victory at Actium was the culmination of more than half a century of destructive civil wars that had torn apart the Roman Republic and undermined its institutions. The Roman Republic had come into being 500 years earlier, when the small and rather insignificant city state of Rome had overthrown the last of its kings and established in their place a form of government that shared political power among a group of citizens. The important offices in the government were filled by annual elections in which all citizens cast votes for their favorite candidates. While this might sound quite democratic, real power was concentrated in the hands of a set of influential, wealthy families from whose ranks almost all of the elected magistrates were chosen. Over the next several centuries, the city of Rome gradually conquered its neighbors and expanded its territory, first in central Italy and then throughout the peninsula. In these early wars, Rome was neither technologically nor tactically superior to its foes, and its army was really only a citizen militia. But the Roman people did display a dogged resilience and determination so that even when they suffered repeated military defeats and disasters, they simply regrouped and came back until they finally won. The fall of the Republic and the rise of the Empire. Rome had been stunningly successful in conquering the Mediterranean, but these external triumphs ended up creating dire entire internal problems in the Roman Republic. The fruits of conquest were not evenly distributed, and by the dawn of the first century BC, nearly even segment of society was burning with resentment, including the half citizens and allies in Italy, ordinary Roman citizens, and half citizens and allies, enslaved foreigners, and even the elite families. These resentments steadily grew until they boiled over during the late Republic, conventionally defined as the period between the failed attempt at reform in 1303 BC and the Battle of Actium in 31 BC. As the Republic staggered along under increasing strain, its institutions and traditions were eroded. This era also saw the rise of a series of dangerous strongmen who put their personal ambitions above the good of the state, including Pompey the Great and Julius Caesar, whose rivalry ended in a cataclysmic civil war from which Caesar emerged the winner. While Caesar's talents brought him military victory, he failed to find a way to rule Rome as one man without provoking the Romans' traditional and extreme antipathy to monarchy. He was assassinated by a conspiracy of senators on the Ides of March 44 BC, and Caesar's death created a power vacuum that a number of groups and individuals then sought to fill. This included several of Caesar's former officers, most notably Marcus Antonius, often simply called Mark Antony, who was the strongest and in the best position to take control of the Roman state. In a surprise development, however, when Caesar's will was read, it was discovered that he had posthumously adopted as his son a previously unknown and undistinguished grandnephew known as Octavian, who proved to be an extremely clever and manipulative young man, parlaying his link to Caesar into a certain degree of political power and becoming one of the rivals vying to take Caesar's place. In the decade following Caesar's assassination, Antony, Octavian, and other former Caesarian officers temporarily aligned but ultimately turned on one another. Eventually, it came down to just Anthony and Octavian, who deferred their final confrontation for quite a while, and in the meantime effectively dividing up the Roman world between them, with Anthony holding the richer eastern half and Octavian controlling the west, including Rome. However, in the end, Octavian emerged as the winner. Now let's go to the Julio-Claudian emperors. Augustus, the first emperor. Once Gaius Julius Caesar Octavianus had defeated all rivals to become the sole ruler of the Roman world, he would go on to become the first Roman emperor under the name Augustus. The greatest challenge he faced now was how to permanently consolidate power in a way that would be palatable to the Romans. The Julio-Claudian emperors. On January 13, 27 BC, at a meeting at the Senate, Octavian began revealing his response to the challenge of power consolidation. He theatrically announced that he was returning all of his accumulated power to the Senate and people of Rome. In what was likely a prearranged performance, he was then reluctantly persuaded to retain control over a few of the provinces, such as Syria, Gaul, Cilicia in Asia Minor, Egypt, and the two provinces of Hispania. But even these he did not rule directly, instead delegating his power to legates who acted as the governors of these regions. The creation of the Principate, Augustus' initial powers. First, he had control over the provinces of Syria, Gaul, Cilicia in Asia Minor, Egypt, and the two provinces of Hispania. Second, 23 of Rome's 28 legions would be commanded by men handpicked by Octavian. Under this arrangement, 23 of Rome's 28 legions would be commanded by men who had been handpicked by Octavian and whose allegiance lay first and foremost with him. Often ultimate power in a state resides with the person or institution who commands the loyalty of the troops, and the creation of these so-called imperial provinces ensured that if it came to the use of open force, Octavian would be the victor. In 30 BC, he arranged for the Senate to bestow upon him the powers of a tribune, but not the tribune office itself. The tribuneship was one of the traditional offices in the Roman government, and 10 of these magistrates were elected by the citizen body every year. Among their important powers were the ability to convene the citizen voting assembly and propose new legislation to it, as well as the power to effectively veto almost any government act or law. Tribunes also enjoyed a special sanctity in Roman culture intended to protect them from harm when in performance of their duties. In 29 BC, Octavian was granted the power of censor. Censors in the Republican government that not Censors in the Republican government not only had the responsibility to conduct the census, but also to revise the list of citizens and to add or remove individuals from the rolls based on various criteria, including a subjective assessment of their supposed moral character. Octavian would eventually amass the powers of additional magistrates until it would not be too much of an exaggeration to say that the powers collectively wielded by him equal those of the entire rest of the state.